Welcome to Daikaiju Network, where we have a very healthy obsession with kaiju. We are also the longest-running kaiju podcast. I am your co-host, Kent, and with me is your other co-host,
Jason. How's it going, everyone?
So, we are going to be covering essentially the first half of Ultraseven during this episode. And a little bit of housekeeping quickly here before we forget and move on. Originally, we had planned to do the first half today, which we are, and then we were also planning to finish up the series and to discuss it towards the end of next month, March. But because of the fact that we're not necessarily over the hill, I guess, or overly excited about this series at this point, not to mention how more difficult it was to squeeze in 24, 25 episodes. I did 27. I actually overachieved.
Such an overachiever.
for this month. It was very difficult. So what we're doing is we're going to finish up our coverage and discussion of Ultraseven actually at the end of April. So what we're going to do is right now we're covering the first 25 episodes. So we're covering basically, the bulk here. And then at the end of next month, we're covering 14 episodes. And then when we wrap things up at the end of April, we're covering the final 10. The reason why I had overachieved was because I was under the impression this was a 54-episode series. So I ended up doing 27 episodes. And at the same time, too, I'm kind of giving everybody a warning up front. At least for these first, half of episodes, for the most part, I am not thrilled with this show. I have a lot of negative things to say about it. I do have a few nice things, but they are very few and far between. Jason, by the sounds of it, isn't going to necessarily be as harsh, but he's not overly excited about it either. So if you are a fan of this series, at least these first 25 episodes that we're covering, this may not be a discussion that you're going to be thrilled with. I still would encourage you to listen, simply because it's an opposing viewpoint. Maybe you can learn something and appreciate something that we bring up. Otherwise, you could be like a lot of people on the internet and just hate us and dislike us and hate our guts and wish us a very painful death, which, I mean, look, you're right. I just wouldn't go about life doing that. So, so I'm just kind of warning you, that's kind of what you should expect during this first discussion. I can't say much of anything about the latter part of this series because we stopped at a certain point. It's not like we did the whole thing and then we're just chopping it up. So, I'm just kind of forewarning you. Like this particular one, it may not like. We'll kind of see how everything pans out at the end of next month when we cover the next 14, and then when we finalize everything at the end of April. So I'm just kind of letting everybody know that there's a heads up there. Right. So, do you have any other housekeeping here?
Yeah. So just want to make sure and notify everyone that if you haven't subscribed already, just make sure to hit that notification button down below or wherever on the where that subscribe button is, wherever you're watching from. And as far as video, live streaming, everything, you can find us over at, obviously, at YouTube, Facebook, DLive, Twitch, and Twitter as well. And you can also find our audio versions of the podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and as well as TuneIn. And you can also find us at our own website, and you can also listen to both our audios and watch our videos over at DaikaijuNetwork.com.
All right, so with that, let's just go ahead and dive into 7. So here we are. We're covering Ultraseven. This came on the heels of Ultraman. And so I guess we might as well just kind of dive in. I took some notes about each episode, and I gave each episode a grade as I went along here. So
Yeah,
I want to give everybody a warning too that both Jason and I have the Shout Factory releases that were released 2012 or whenever that was.
I used to, but I recently have the new Mill Creek Entertainment one, so I've got like the first 7. All of those are in the Blu-ray steel box set.
Wait a minute. So what'd you do with your Shout Factory one?
Well, I still have it laying aside, so I'm going to kind of get rid of that one.
Okay. Well, I don't know what the Mill Creek deal does as far as episode titles, but the way I have the episode titles here, it's from the menus of the Shout Factory ones. So yeah, I know some of these are off a little bit. There are a bunch of nerds out there. There are people who get very specific about things. So I'm just saying I got the titles from the menu on the Shout Factory because I did it by episodes. I didn't hit the play all and take it off from, the actual title card as as each episode starts. So I'm just letting everybody know it's not like I'm changing things on my own, and it's what Shout Factory were.
Yeah, and just from looking at the list here, according to Wikipedia, they're basically the same nameage from what I've seen on the first 3 discs of that Blu-ray steel box set.
So we're going to start with episode 1 called The Invisible Challenger or Adversary, depending upon which word again you want to use. So we're introduced to the Ultra Guard as part of the Terrestrial Defense Force, which is an extension of the Self-Defense Force. I love the coal aliens here. It's kind of a cross between a tick and a lobster. Here, I had kind of forgotten how wacky some of this stuff was.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's like a visible sort of tick sort of thing. Kind of like it sort of reminds me of one of the other things, like a flying brain or something of the sort. But yeah, and as far as the whole TDF, Terrestrial Defense Force, it kind of looks a little bit similar to the Science Patrol in some sort of fashion as far as the outfits and everything, but obviously different colors and all that, but more technology and other specifics here and there.
Yeah, my understanding is that most, if not all, of these earlier Ultraman-esque shows do a similar thing where there's some sort of organization that is an extension of the Self-Defense Force, and they specialize, like in this case, extraterrestrial activity. Science Patrol, it just was, really any oddball phenomenon. That sort of thing. So I think most of them kind of follow this similar pattern for a while.
And the one thing that I want to at least point out, that the person who plays as Shigeru Furuhashi, he returns from the previous series, and I think this might be maybe the only person, I'm not entirely sure, I haven't really watched all of the Ultraman series or TV shows. I've only seen spots of other Ultraman series here and there. But as far as, to my perspective, at the least, that if I'm probably going to be butchering his actual name here, Sendayu Mamushi. I think he's probably the only recurring person that has come back in some sort of fashion, being part of the whole patrol team for the Ultra series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I had forgotten too that Dan Moroboshi, or aka Ultraseven, he kind of has these capsule deals where he throws out either in this episode Wyndham, which is sort of like a mecha chicken, or this other monster. I want to say it's Thesis. I want to say was the name. I forgot the name of the this weird looking monster he has at his disposal as well.
Yeah,
But
and
yeah, he throws it, and I kind of was disappointed because this Wyndham, and we'll see Wyndham one or two more times during the first half of this series. Wyndham's actually, despite how it's built and how it looks, it's actually just a very sad weapon to have. It seems to be very ineffective.
and I can remember that Wyndham also comes back in one of the most recent Ultra Series TV shows. I think it was Jeed, I believe.
Geed.
Jeed or Geed, however you pronounce that name. He does at least appear just as more like a human type of robot weapon operated by a human and everything. But yeah, I sort of forgot about Wyndham in a way when it comes to like this suit and the whole design. It was kind of it's a bit unique in a way, and how and I would like to know how they sort of came up with the design or the overall sort of thing. But I can at least remember in one of the second to last episodes of the first half, Return to the North, that it seemed like it was already sort of falling apart because you can kind of see some of the parts of the whole suit where you can kind of see like some of the cloth and foam and stuff from underneath. But other than that, yeah, Wyndham is sort of a interesting concept as well. I also sort of forget the name of the other monster, but I think he also has, I think, a few other kind of capsules when they I believe they show in this first episode when he opens up that little kind of cigarette box sort of design with all the capsules in them. I'm not sure if he uses all of them, but for sure in the first half that he uses those two particular capsules.
Yeah, and I just kind of want to let everyone know, too, that we're not going to go into great detail of each episode. We're just going to kind of hit upon some points and stuff because we got a lot to cover here. And we're just like, this is kind of, for something like this, you have to do a general overview. And at the same time, we're not the type that is going to go into great detail, because if we were to do that, we might as well split up Ultraseven over the course of a year or two if we were to go into great detail. So
And
all of this is going to be a general overview of most episodes here.
yeah, and it's like with Ken, where he sort of gave a few points for each episode. I just, with the amount of episodes that we have here, I really didn't bother, so I'm just kind of giving my sort of overview of the first half from what I've seen so far. And then, but yeah, kind of like what we did with Ultraman so many years ago. We'd done at least a few episodes per episode, and then that sort of went on for I don't know how many years, but yeah, we're not going to do that again. So just kind of give a brief overview of the first, second, or third half.
Yeah, and the coal aliens here are too easily dispatched, but I do remember this alien design, and I'm almost positive they may return later. They didn't, though, in this first half, so I don't know. As we go into the second half over the next couple months, we'll see if they return. But as far as this episode, the very first episode, I'm deeply disappointed we don't see Ultraseven take over Damor Boshi early in the episode like we got with Ultraman and Hayata.
Yeah, pretty much all that has already taken place
Yeah, and I think even a brief origin setting up Ultraseven and Dan is necessary. We do get some of that a little bit later. I think it's like episode 10 that happens, but we'll get there. It doesn't have to be intricate, though, just enough to give us some background. But yeah, again, we will see a snippet of this a handful of episodes or so later.
It's actually number 17.
Yeah, my grade for this first episode, I gave it a C. I think it was an average episode.
Yeah, I'm just kind of more in the in the middle of the road. Yeah, just probably at least a C plus.
And so on to episode 2, titled The Green Terror. I think it's amazing that Dan is all of a sudden a member of the Ultra Guard. Because he kind of helped him a little bit, but it was sort of offhanded how he did it. But there was no initiation whatsoever. It's just kind of, now he's a member of the Ultra Guard. And I know this was kind of aimed towards kids, but and already I'm kind of getting into one of the issues I have with this show, is that this show, even though yes, it's kind of aimed at kids, at the same time it tries to, I think, appeal to a slightly older audience than what Ultraman tried to do. And as a result, in my personal opinion, at least during this first half of the show, I don't think it succeeds. Because it's trying to appeal to everybody, it ends up not being appealing at all, in my opinion, for the most part. And it creates, I think, a lot of issues with tone and even some of the themes that are presented occasionally throughout, once again, at least the first half of this series. And to me, I think something like this, when you get the main character who's going to be a member of the Ultra, I mean, we all knew it was going to happen, obviously. But the fact that when you take a look at the first episode and you see how he helped him in a very offhanded way, he was basically like one of us just helping, let's say, the police or something catch a criminal of some sort. It's not like all of a sudden the police are going to be like, you are a member of the force now. It's not, it doesn't happen that way. And I understand it's fiction, but still, it's very important that your character now is a member of the Ultra Guard, like what Hayata was, although Hayata was already a member of the Science Patrol by the time Ultraman took over his body. And I just find it weird. And some people may think I'm nitpicking, but I think some of this stuff is important because it is a big deal when your character jumps, even though he's already been embodied by Ultraseven at this point. It's still a big deal that he gets initiated because they don't realize he's Ultraseven. To them, he's still a human, and I think it's important for the audience to see this initiation, to kind of see character growth. And here I am just kind of continuing to dump into just some of my issues here, and I'm going to try to stop after this point. I think one of the also bigger issues, and I think this is one of the biggest problems of this series too, is there's really no character development at all in any of these characters. Ultraman did it better, and even then that's not saying much. There wasn't a ton of character growth in that series because obviously it was more about solving mysteries and fighting weird creatures and kaiju. But there was occasionally with some episodes growth. At least what we get here, and I'm just spoiling this right now for all 25 episodes that we're covering here, there really is no growth. And the character seems so one-dimensional. Anne is virtually relegated to a strict female role, which is very insulting. But even on top of that, when you compare her role to the female character's role in the original Ultraman series, Anne is barely even involved with this series. And to me, that's deeply disappointing because the gal who was involved with the Science Patrol and Ultraman had a lot bigger role. She even had some episodes that were centered strictly around her and some of the problems that she was facing, occasionally throughout that series. And that was a 39 episode series. They did a better job of fleshing out the characters and giving each character their own moment or so, sprinkled throughout that series. So far, 25 episodes in, Anne is relegated to nothing more than a stereotypical female role of the late 60s, and just in general is barely even here. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of issues with that, not just because, like I said, of her role of just kind of being this general female, so to speak. Not just that, but she's the only female, just like the other one was in Ultraman, but she just is barely even here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other thing that is sort of tending to be a little bit more of a problem with this is that it seemed like that they had a lot of filler within each of these episodes. And what I mean about filler, they had these really, really long shots of when they sent out, was it Ultra Hawk airplanes and stuff. And they, like every episode, you see them getting ready, moving in one spot and going up to the surface and everything. They show other scenes and all that. And that's sort of kind of one of the main problems. One of the main issues that we tend to get to see in the first half, and I think maybe towards the end of the first half, I think they kind of sort of realized that was getting to be the case. It's like, why don't we try to at least fill in with some better things than just showing these long shots of the airplanes and everything? But yeah, and I think that's probably one of the things why I haven't watched this show in 10 years since the Shout Factory launched or released Ultraseven onto a DVD around 2012. It was sort of long and excruciating just to sit there watching these long shots of airplanes, like episode per episode. And the other thing to point out, kind of continuing on with your thing about character development here, and I'm not sure how much time that they had in between production and then releasing the shows. That could have been a factor, but with it being episode by episode, but then kind of them maybe thinking about that these being episodic episodes just kind of contained in one episode. They probably didn't really care much about character development, and that could also be the issue if they had thought about that. And that sort of is a little bit worrying because, since we're going to be continuing on with other Ultra franchise shows after Ultraseven here, is that still going to be an issue for the later ones? As far as Leo, I'm not sure if they've gotten a bit better at that. It's been many years since I've last watched Leo, but hopefully
I will say
that
this
they
about
get
Leo.
better.
I watched the first 6 or 8 episodes early-ish June of last year. I didn't get through the whole series. But I'm saying this right now about Leo. I had a lot more fun than I had with this. So I'm just saying that right now. It may end up being goofier than this one, but it knew what it was. And it went with it, just like Ultraman. Ultraman knew what it was, and it went with it. And it may be silly, it may be goofy, but make it fun at least, or make it entertaining. Ultraseven, because, and here we are just generally talking about it instead of going through the episode.
That's fine by me.
But the problem with Ultraseven is that like I said a moment ago, it tries to appeal both to adults and to kids, and as a result, most of these episodes, and at least this first half as a whole, and I am very cynical and I'm going to think the rest of this series, the series as a whole, is such a schizophrenic mess that it ends up in general being just not really a good show. And I disagree with you in that you were saying that kind of as you get towards the latter half of the latter end of the first half of the series, that they kind of cut some of the long shots out. That is not true. They still waste an awful lot of time with just about every episode. There's an episode called, I just had it here, give me just 1 second here. It's called Return to the North. And there is this moment, and I am hoping you remember this, because this was one of the things that just stuck with me so much with watching this first half. There's a laughing moment between Furuhashi and his mother. It goes back and forth with them laughing to each other while they're talking on the phone.
Well,
remember that?
With that, yes, but I'm talking about as far as the whole filler for when the airplanes and stuff are being
that still happens
and everything.
Yeah, I mean
but
still
at
happens.
least they really cut it down towards the end of the first half. I sort of noticed, but
yeah, I disagree.
Yeah, and the other thing when it comes to Return to the North, and this is kind of the more memorable episode since I just watched it last night. The one thing I seriously have an issue with, and where they talk about detonate the self-destruction bomb to 360 seconds to prevent from colliding with the civilian airline that was coming towards it there. But then towards the end, when everything was wrapping up,
when Ultraseven was fighting Wyndham, and that took a good long time.
Yeah, as soon as Furuhashi got regained control of the airplane, set the self-detonation thing off, and there was at least maybe about 30 to 20 seconds left of it, and went by the civilian airline. I'm just like, wasn't that supposed to detonate way before the civilian airline?
Yeah, it was.
Whole incident.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I have that in my notes. I said the timer should have gone off during the 7 Wyndham fight. It's preposterous Furuhashi would have had 27 seconds left on the timer by that point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, but let's quickly get back to the Green Terror here. Let's try to get a bit more on point here. We're just we kind of are like, here's one thing I want to say about not just this particular episode, the Green Terror, but the whole show as a whole, is that I think a lot of the miniature work and a lot of the effects work is very, very good. I think it's a big step up from Ultraman. In fact, here, with the Green Terror, I love the hand makeup transition. I think it's an amazing effect for a TV series, even at the time, and that the miniature sets are amazing. Like there's a moment when an ambulance falls off the freeway, and I think it looks so spectacular because so much work went into that particular moment, despite the shot only lasting a few seconds.
Yeah, and this episode sort of reminds me of a bit of a similar type of episode, I think, in Ultraman, in a way, where it dealt with some kind of plant monster, and maybe kind of a combination of the two episodes from that, where he had some kind of rock or something kind of coming from space and doing something, and then kind of combines with another monster, like a plant monster. So they kind of combined the two here. But this one is sort of kind of reminds me just a little bit of kind of a low budget Matango in a way.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I want to say something too, and what I'm about to say goes for the entire Ultra Guard and how very inept and amateur this organization is throughout really this whole series, because I am going to assume they continue this buffoonery in the second half of the series. But as I was watching this episode and seeing Captain Kiriyama say the creatures of alien origin, I began to think about the likely probability that every single adversary in this series is extraterrestrial. If that is the case, I must say that the Ultra Guard and the international community have failed mightily at not figuring out some shield or ultra defense mechanisms to prevent alien attacks or to stop them shortly after coming into our atmosphere. I understand the show was made for a younger audience, but I can't help but to think that so much damage could have been prevented and so many lives could have been saved had some ultimate shield or weapon was devised after a particular point in time. And there is an episode that comes later where a doctor is trying to devise a shield, but it ends up, they defeat the aliens, but this shield device never comes into play again. Why, I don't know, and a lot of it is because, well, we need to create like 25 more episodes, and so we need aliens to be able to freely move to and from outer space and planet Earth. So
yeah, I was gonna mention that there was an episode, I forget which one it was, that it, like at the very beginning, where the alien spaceship kind of went through a shield before entering the atmosphere and just kind of damaged or something of the sort, and I forget.
Project
like I said,
Blue. I think it's called.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Project Blue. But yeah, this whole Ultra Guard, and I will continue to say this as we go through this series, and even in my final thoughts of the first half of the series, that the Ultra Guard, they're a bunch of idiots. I mean, they really are. I don't know how else to say it. They really are. For supposedly a very highly specialized extension of the self-defense force, these guys are no better than just, anyone you could pick off from the street. But anyway, I thought the conclusion to this episode, though, was a problem that I had occasionally had with some Ultraman episodes, and an issue I know will persist throughout future Ultra series, including this one, where the battle between the Ultra Hero and the Kaiju of the Week is incredibly short. The Kaiju got one good hit in before Ultraseven defeated it with ease. It's disappointing. I also can't help but to think that they wasted an opportunity to have more people turn into those YR plant people. That could have raised the stakes even more for this story. Alas, it may have been budgetary reasons as to why they may not have pursued that course. But I gave this episode, though, a C+, because I thought, like you were saying, it did kind of remind me of Matango a little bit. I love that movie, but I like the effects work in this one, too. I really thought that was a highlight, so that's why I gave this one a C+.
Yeah, for me, I'll probably would also give it a C+.
All right, so episode 3, The Secret of the Lake. That man is pretty pissed off for a girl to steal his fish. I noticed that. Not to mention the Ultra Guard must have a lot of spare time on their hand to look for a random girl who steals people's fish off their fishing lines.
And just talking to random people.
Yeah. I almost wonder, because we were talking about Dan Moriboshi throwing out his little pillbox of kaiju. Maybe Pokemon. The general idea of Pokemon.
Speaking of Pokemon, was it the creator of Pokemon himself? He said that the concept of the Pokeball was inspired by Ultraseven's capsule monsters. There you go.
I connected the dots and I didn't even know that. I smart.
And the one major problem, and this is the one that I remember from this episode, is that it seems like kind of the recurring major issue in the first half is that Dan Moriboshi does not have a way to secure the Ultra Eye, which turns him into Ultraseven. It seems like every time an alien will either steal his Ultra Eye from the side pocket that he usually has it in, or he loses it, like when we see it from episode 25 in the snow. So that's sort of the recurring issue with Dan Moriboshi, either losing or getting his Ultra Eye stolen.
Well, and it's a way the writers are believing that creates high stakes, because it's like, oh my gosh, if our main character can't find the MacGuffin thing, like with the little capsule deal with Hayata and Ultraman, the monster's going to go on and destroy, the city and take over the world or whatever. Look, as an audience member, that's not going to be the case. Yeah, they may have a tremendous setback, but eventually they're going to get that device. My biggest problem is the fact that Ultraseven, unlike Ultraman, except for one time, at least in the first half of the series, it never really felt like he was in trouble. Because if you remember Ultraman, basically every episode, within mere seconds of Ultraman showing up, his blinker would start going off, meaning that he was running out of power, and that if he ran out of power while in the Ultraman form, that would be the end of Ultraman. That only happens once in this first half, and it's towards the end of the first half.
In Return to the North.
Yeah, and
it seems it always goes back to that episode.
Return to the North, I'm just saying it right now just to preview, like, that one. It's a terrible episode. It's not only it's funny in a very awful way, because I still can't get that image or that sequence out of my head of Furuhashi and his mother laughing back and forth for what felt like 5 minutes. And the thing he said was fucking stupid. It was not funny at all. It was not funny. And then the people thought, oh, like for nearly 5 minutes. I'm like, God damn it. Like, this just goes to prove nobody knows what the hell they're doing here. Nobody. Like, I'm getting angry because, first of all, I've seen 27 episodes of this, and I'm just getting into. I'm mad. I'm mad because, first and foremost, there was a template they could have followed with Ultraman. Ultraman came before this. There was a template set there. They could have easily, more or less, have duplicated that and changed certain things as they went along to, to accommodate what the stories they were trying to tell and what have you.
It just sort of felt like that they wanted to go into a different direction and try to create another new formula.
Which is fine, but you as writers and production people should know whether or not, the audience members can tell whether or not something can work. But you, especially the creators, should know whether or not something works as well. And they stick to the schizophrenic thing of trying to straddle between appealing to adult audiences and children. And as a result, nothing is appealing. Everything is, not everything, but most of everything is dull as fuck. And I am not entertained most of the time throughout this first half. I am giving some of these episodes decent grades, at least early on, but there's this whole stretch of just pure shit. And there are a few other decent ones, sprinkled in there. But there was a template. I can forgive the first, let's say, 5 or 6 episodes of a new TV series of being bad because you're brand new, you're trying to figure your stuff out. I get it. And then usually after those first handful of episodes, you kind of figure it out, and that's how you do it. But then here's the thing. I'm okay with Ultraseven trying to do something that was different from Ultraman, but at the same time, here's the kicker. You, by and large, are still Ultraman-esque, okay? You're still fighting weird-ass creatures. Your whole purpose is to eventually get large and to fight these creatures in their larger form as well and to defeat them. If after the first few episodes, what you're trying to do differently from Ultraman doesn't work out. You abandon it and you just go back to what worked with Ultraman. Instead, people just kept doing what they were doing with these first handful of episodes. One episode called Underground Go 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 is a pure example of just the absolute shit that this series is, because what it does is that it continues to build on this long ass story of this Jiro character in which Ultraseven saved and then copied his image to be Dan Moriboshi. This guy is stuck in a motherfucking cave for the entire episode and there's nothing dramatic. They try to use this magmalizer vehicle to get in there. Okay, kind of a neat vehicle. Boring as shit, though. There's no monster. There is nothing going on. People are freaking out. Oh, can we find Jiro? I'm like, okay, well, let's save the mouse because I'm an animal lover. Let's save the mouse. Let's make sure the mouse, fuck this guy. I don't care, but let's save the mouse. But instead, it's about trying to drill in, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, Jiro, like, are we gonna, can we save him? And nothing is happening. There's no weird-ass creature that is upping the stakes, that is trying to come after Jiro. There's nothing. It's slow-ass build-up, and I'm like, Dan Moriboshi, you're Ultraseven. Go off to a corner somewhere, turn into Ultraseven, and bore your way and get this asshole out. And it doesn't happen. There's just so much wasted time within so many of these episodes where it's a build-up. They're trying to tell a story that is dramatic, and it's not. It is dull as fuck. And I just am so beyond pissed off with how this series so far is handling its storytelling. I know I'm getting all bent out of shape here, but I went through 27 episodes of this, and more times than not, I came out bored as shit and so deeply disappointed, because not only was I expecting something more or less in a general sense, like Ultraman, I was expecting something to at least be entertaining. You can be as stupid and goofy as hell, like Ultraman was, but if you knew what you were and you did it well and stuck with it, hey, that's great. Ultraman was entertaining. I had, some issues with some of the episodes there in Ultraman, but by and large, as a whole, I think Ultraman is incredibly fun. In fact, it's my third favorite TV series of all time. I love that series. It's entertaining, goofy, silly, crazy as all hell, but it's fun. This series, go ahead, try something different, but if it doesn't work, go back to the old template that was set up for you. It's right there. Copy and paste it. Just change a few things around. You didn't do that. You still aren't continuing to do that. Occasionally you deviate from that formula, like Westward Ultra Garrison. It's a two-parter storyline that is actually quite good. We'll get there here in a bit after I get done, splitting a vein in my head here. But this series, more times than not, just decides to try to build up a story that gives you, more times than not, a pithy conclusion, a conclusion that lasts about 30 seconds with little to no exciting fight. You're left wondering, what the hell just happened? Most of what takes place in the middle of the episodes doesn't really matter. It could have been cut short to give you more entertainment value and to just also tell a better story. These stories, more times than not, tend to take longer than is necessary to get from point A to point B. And you have 25 minutes to tell this story, and you decide, I would rather keep a guy stuck underground, have my heroes look dumber than a bag of hammers, when you got one superhero guy over here who could have secretly changed into the superhero that the show is named after, bore his way and take the guy out and save him, and let's go fight some lava creature somewhere or whatever. That doesn't happen. And instead they're just pounding their stupid foreheads up against a brick wall like, oh my God, what can we do here? And I'm just like, it's so simple to fix. And you most of the time choose not to. And I'm going, this is how you can change it. This is how you can do it. And you're not doing it. And instead I'm bored to tears. And it's pissing me off because it's like, if this isn't working, then just copy and paste what Ultraman did. And you aren't doing it.
Boy, I think we found a new rant for Ken.
I am,
And
as,
you know,
as Jason knows, because I talked to him via Messenger earlier in the week, and I said, I am not having fun with this series. And look, I warned everybody at the top of this podcast, at least with me, I am going to be very negative on this series so far, and I'm desperately hoping the final half of this series gets better. But I told him in Messenger earlier in the week, I said, I am not having fun. I said, this thing is so frustrating because they could have just copy and pasted Ultraman and just changed a few things here and there, and for whatever reason, they decided not to do that.
and this is sort of one of the reasons why I didn't really go into detail or at least list out the few things for each of the episodes, because when he sent that, as like, I sort of had a feeling that we're probably going to get another rant.
I think it's important, though. Here's the thing. Some of you out there watching or listening to this think I am completely overblown it, that I'm crazy and nuts. That's okay. That's your.
To me personally, I think you're nuts. So
we're siblings. We're supposed to think that way of each other. But here's the thing. The reason why I am so passionate about this is because I love this genre. I love tokusatsu. I love a lot of this Japanese science fiction stuff. It's the reason why we have been doing this podcast longer than anybody else has. We love Godzilla. We love a lot of those Toho sci-fi, other kaiju type films. Yeah, not everything works. Occasionally we nitpick, but we feel like because we're hosts of a podcast, we feel like it's our prerogative to try to do the best we can to be as objective as possible. Yeah, some of our subjectivity will come through, other times more than others, especially if we like something quite a bit. But I feel like it's our objective to be honest with people as far as if you haven't seen this or you've seen it maybe once or twice and just don't remember much about something, I feel like it's our prerogative to tell you kind of what to expect. And look, there are some people that are probably listening to this who haven't seen Ultraseven and are like, boy, I'm not sure if I want to listen to it or not. And they're probably hearing me and they're like, I don't know if I want to watch this. I would say, no, probably not. But here's the caveat I would say to you. I personally don't like it because I have certain reasons that I will go further into in just 1 second. But I still would advise you that even if you're at a point right now, just even in this almost hour that we're into this podcast, that you're thinking about not even watching it, I still would advise you to go check it out for yourself, because your taste may be different from mine. Okay? You may end up liking it. For starters, I don't. I'm hoping the second half is better. Right now, I hate this show. And I'm so passionate about it because I love this genre. I love the first 2 Ultra series. We got Ultra Q. I love Ultra Q. We got Ultraman. Like I just said, it's my 3rd favorite TV series of all time. I love Ultraman. It's goofy. It's silly as all hell. But it's fun. It knows what it is, and it runs with it. And as a result, it's entertaining. Here, I am passionate about it because I do, by and large, like the Ultra stuff. I like a lot of the older classic movies and TV series, not just in Japan, but even in the United States. Twilight Zone. My first is my all-time favorite TV series from late 50s into the mid-60s. My second favorite TV series, the Adam West Batman series. Late 60s. You're seeing a pattern here. I like a lot of this older stuff because science fiction was across the board willing to take more risks with stories, aliens, creatures, all that stuff. You don't see a whole lot of that being taken anymore nowadays with TV shows and films. Studios are scared to take those kinds of risks anymore. Back then, no, they were like weird creatures, giant grasshoppers, giant ants. Go for it. And that's one of the things I love. Yeah, it sounds stupid as heck sometimes, and it may look stupid, but they knew what they were and they went with it. And as a result, they're entertaining. And Ultraseven, again, like I'm repeating myself like a broken record. I'm okay with trying to do something different. I'm okay with that. But if it doesn't work, and they should have known by episode 5 or 6 that what they were trying to do didn't work, guess what? In the case of Ultraseven, you had a previous example in Ultraman of something that did work. Basically, copy and paste how all that went down
Mm-hmm.
and just make some tweaks here and there. And I'm passionate about this because I love older science fiction. And it pains me to say that this is not good. Right now, anyways, at least this first half. And I love Ultraman. I was expecting an awful lot from Ultraseven as well. And right now, I'm not getting that.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why I haven't watched the show in 10 years since Shout Factory released the DVD set, I think it's just the sheer amount of filler that came in with a lot of the episodes, particularly so far from the first half of the whole entire TV show. We'll have to see how it goes for the second half here, but I can at least now recollect from 10 years ago why I haven't gotten around to watching this show in 10 years. It's just the sheer amount of filler. And I can remember now when I moved back up to the Twin Cities around this time, or about later on in 2012 and stuff, and gotten this DVD set. And I can remember sitting there in the living room, just like days on, just trying to get through this show. And so it's like, man, how many episodes are here? And then when I saw about 50, I was like, oh shit.
Well, and another thing and this is my final point, and we'll get back to this third episode here. One of the things that makes me angry about it too, other than the fact that I'm passionate about this, I love old-timey science fiction and I expected better, is the fact that a lot of these problems could easily be fixed. I'm not a professional writer, but I went to college. I was an English major. I was also a history and journalism major. But I'm not a professional writer. I'm not like a Stephen King type or anything like that. But anybody who has read enough novels or watched enough shows or films, you get to a point to where you kind of know a story structure and how to tell a story and how to tell it well. All of this stuff could have easily been fixed that I'm talking about with some of these problems. Like I said, the biggest problem is the fact that most of these episodes spend way too much time building up a story and next to nothing even remotely exciting happens. There's an easy fix to that, and I have answers for every single one of those moments. And I'm just an amateur. We pretend that we're professional, but we're not. And I could fix all of this. I would say, okay, give me your script, and I could have easily fixed this stuff. I'd be like, okay, this is going on way too long. Let's cut out half of this. Let's, insert a monster, or the monster comes in earlier here, or whatever. You get the fight going sooner, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem. These guys were paid. Okay, I would have done it for free because I want to see a fun product. This is an easy fix. Anybody who even knows remotely anything about how to create something entertaining could have fixed these problems.
Yeah, and the one thing that I was just sort of going through as far as the story development and stuff, I noticed the name Tetsuo Kinjo, which he also kind of helped develop the story for Ultraman, but along with Eiji Tsuburaya. When it comes to Ultraseven, he's the only one, not along with Eiji Tsuburaya. So
there you go.
I think the only problem is that Eiji Tsuburaya wasn't part of the whole development of the TV show.
Here's my theory. The right. What's the one writer's name?
Tetsuo Kinjo.
I am willing to bet you Kinjo was brought in for the human drama, and Tsuburaya was more in line with doing the effects or kind of the kaiju stuff. That explains so much. I bet that's my theory, and I'm willing to bet $1,000 I am correct in that Kinjo was more about creating the human story. If these episodes were maybe an hour long, stuff like my theory, my whole way that I think about these episodes probably would be a whole lot different because it would play out different. I am willing to bet he is someone who writes a lot of human drama, but knew next to nothing about how to handle the kaiju. And as a result, what you see throughout most of this first half, and probably even throughout the entire series, are incredibly short kaiju battles that are just entertaining enough to where you're just like, okay, I got it.
Yeah, and we'll have to see if that's the case when we see Return of Ultraman, which is the next TV series after this one, because we don't see him Tetsuo Kinjo returning to develop as was it Shoujo Yuhara and Yoji Hashimoto do the story for that show.
Let me give you a spoiler here about Return of Ultraman. My guy here, back in 2020, wanted to watch some Ultraman stuff from beginning to end. He picked Return of Ultraman. I didn't get in on all of it. I saw some episodes here and there. Let me just tell you, it's so much better than Ultraseven. It's more entertaining.
So your theory possibly could be true.
I am willing to bet I'm right on that. But anyways, let's get back to this episode here. We had like, a 30-minute deviation from it.
Do we really need to?
I got something, I gave this episode a good grade here because, like I said, I feel like I'm being brutally honest here and fair as well. I thought the kaiju battles here were more entertaining due to them, meaning the kaiju being introduced earlier in the episode, and I appreciate that for a series like any of these Ultra series. We're here for the kaiju. If you're not going to give us kaiju battles, then you need to give us a good story. With that said, though, Ultraseven easily defeats King. And what's with the explosion? Ultraseven didn't throw any explosives. What's the deal?
Yeah, when it comes to King, I know that monster sort of reoccurs in some of the other later on Ultra series, and I think King is one of the good kind of monster villains that keeps reprising his roles, and I think that's sort of a good thing that they sort of had some kind of monster that they can rehash every time later on in the Ultra franchise. But yeah, I'm as far as some of the other monsters, King sort of feels like one of those that could have easily have been in the original Ultraman TV shows, and I think they try to bring him, or they created him in this one just to kind of give it that feel. It sort of felt like you're watching an original Ultraman TV show with King in there, but obviously it's Ultraseven, so it sort of kind of gave that nice Ultraman vibe with this episode in a way.
Yeah, and I love the alien reveal at the end too. I thought the aliens were very cool, and the only sad thing about that is that we only get to see them for a few seconds. I mean, here's the thing: this was a very fun episode. I had a lot of fun with it. We get a lot more kaiju action than we typically do throughout this first half. I give this episode a B.
Yeah, with this one, I'd at least. Yeah, I'll give it a B. I was kind of going back and forth which one I would at least give it. So I think
what was the other option?
B plus.
Oh yeah, that's too high. Okay, on to episode 4, The Stolen Eye. I think at this point in the series, I was thinking the Ultra Guard would be wondering who Ultraseven is and where he came from, but that's not the case.
Yeah, I don't have anything on this one here.
Yeah, and I thought Dan was an idiot trying to help that lady because he didn't introduce himself. He didn't even have her introduce herself and didn't have her tell him what the problem was with her car. I mean, Dan was so stupid he deserved to get hit in the head with that wrench. I mean, I'm serious. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, these Ultra Guard people...
They're really gullible.
These are flunkies. I swear the self-defense force said, okay, Ultra Guard, the people you're going to employ are people who couldn't even get a GED. So, here you go. And here's Dan Moriboshi, who's an alien who's supposed to be smarter. Nope.
That, and when it comes to extraterrestrial stuff in this TV show, you should at least expect to be on high guard at almost all time. But yet, we don't see that. I don't think we aren't going to see that throughout the entire show. Kind of like what we. That's the other thing with Ultraman 2. It's kind of like that too in the previous show, and it's still continuing on here.
Yeah. Well, and this episode's kind of goofy too, because I found it funny in that moment where Kenji Sahara was kind of joking about that boat going to hell, but at the same time wasn't. I'm like, how does that work?
It's like, yeah, I'm just joking there, but yeah, we're probably gonna go to hell.
But yeah, no, seriously, yeah, like get ready. I mean, and the Ultra Guard is still so stupid if they got distracted by the sea rather than space, like the aliens said they would. Because how legit can the Ultra Guard be at this point if they are always being told, "Look over there," and then they do? Like, it's just, hey, look over there. Huh? Just.
Yeah, for me, I think for this episode, I'd at least give it a C.
Yeah, here's kind of a nitpicky moment, but I think at this point in time it would be necessary that I thought the Ultra Guard members should have had special suits to protect them from the cold of outer space.
That too, and
yeah,
and was it? Yeah. Speaking of which, they didn't even have like any specialized suits, and I think with their helmets too, they only just have their visors. So like, how the fuck?
I gave this one a D+.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
So episode 5 is called The Lost Hours.
Or Vanished Time.
Yep. So, like I told you, I'm going off a Shout Factory.
And like episode 4, it's called Max Respawn for that one too. So
this is so confusing. But, okay. Here is another really goofy point. How does putting a heart into a person's head put them under your control and make them one of you? Just like the aliens did here.
First off, how does a heart yeah. I don't even know how to even finish that sentence or question for that matter.
That's the point. Like,
because the heart functions to make you live, like right now.
It pumps blood. That's its thing.
The only thing that should put you under control is like hypnosis or some kind of specific brain wave or something of the sort.
I just this is like another problem. Like again, Ultraman was goofy and silly, but something like this is stupid. And if the alien knows Dan is Ultraseven, and we get this several times, that means for starters, Dan has done a terrible job of keeping his identity a secret, and more should know who he is,
especially when he's a human.
Yeah, especially the Ultra Guard, who again are a special extension of the Self-Defense Force and who are supposed to be these mighty uber intelligent people. Second, why wouldn't the aliens figure out a way to let the world know so that the panic-stricken people will go after him? Because if they're like, hey, look, this guy over here, he's Ultraseven, he's an alien, don't you think people, as monsters are attacking the Earth, would be like, well, do something about it? And like, why haven't you done more? Like, they could have used that as a story point to create chaos and raise the stakes for Dan and maybe even the Ultra Guard as well.
And the other plot hole within this is that how do the aliens know Dan Moriboshi is Ultraseven, that even though he just turned human, like took on a human form when he came to Earth, and how do they know that for a fact, even though that he hasn't really taken out the Ultra Eye from his side pocket or anything of the sort?
Well, there's that, but at the same time, like I said, it means he's done a terrible job of keeping his identity a secret, but yet somehow the Ultra Guard doesn't know that. But we get numerous times throughout the first half of the series that aliens are saying, Dan Moriboshi, you are Ultraseven, that sort of thing. And I'm like, then why doesn't the Ultra Guard know about this?
Or why just have Dan Moriboshi, his character, kind of going back to your whole little rant about the character thing, is that he doesn't even deny being Ultraseven in front of these supposed aliens, either being in alien form or in human form. Now, he doesn't, say, like, make a lie saying that he's not, but yeah, he doesn't even deny it. So that kind of goes back to, not keeping it secret at all.
This is a painful show to talk about.
No more rants, please. I don't want to keep going because I got other things to do later on.
I know. No, I know. I mean, I've said most of my stuff by and large. But my kind of final overview of this episode, The Lost Hours, is by this point, even though it's only 5 episodes in, I'm beginning to lose patience with the show. My memories of the show were more positive, but at this point, I'm beginning to be disappointed in it. Spoiler alert, as if you didn't already know, I'm beyond disappointed. It's not like the first Ultra show. There was a preceding show that helped set the formula, and that formula is not being followed here to a point where I can say I'm having fun with it. I'm not giving up at this point. At this point, I am. But my expectations are lowering, and I'm not feeling as positive about the show moving forward, and I gave this one a D.
Yeah, with this one, I'd probably give it a D+.
Okay. See, Jason's nicer, everybody. So, episode 6.
I thought about giving it a C-, but I was like, D+ is probably better.
Yeah, if you're struggling to figure out whether to go with the higher grade or lower grade, you should always go with the lower grade. More times than not. So episode 6 is called The Dark Zone. Asking Earth to adjust its orbit is very silly. The sun's gravitational pull of the planets is immensely powerful. Not only that, changes in Earth's orbit would have severe consequences for all of life. This whole thing reminds me of Gorath, which is not a good thing.
That, and then, Pegasus City, I think it's called Pegasus, with it being a floating city that can at least maneuver itself in many ways than planet Earth. Why would you have to have Earth insist on changing its, position or anything when you can just go around it instead of just going fucking straight? And trying to say, oh, I'm better than you, having all this fucking technology and everything, and just letting have some kind of cave people or something of the sort, with lower intelligence, to have them move a damn planet when you can just fucking move it your own thing.
And I'm ranting.
At least my rant is really short compared to yours. So.
Mine was talking about the series as a whole, though. It wasn't about one episode. It was about the series as a whole. But yeah, and here's a thing, too. We get a deal in this episode where it continues to show that a lot of time is wasted because there wasn't much of a story here. We spend too much time with Dan, Ann, and the Pegasus alien chit-chatting. And not only that, we get these overlong preparation shots again. It just, again, a lot of wasted time when more could have been going on. And why couldn't Ultraseven go and move Pegasa? Simple solution.
Yeah.
And the end of the episode is too short and ridiculous. Yeah. I gave this episode an F. Nothing of any real substance was going on. Much of the episode was wasted when more could have gone on. There was a simple solution to the problem. They didn't take that avenue. Yeah.
Yeah, this one just felt more like a real filler of an episode. So yeah, there's really no place for it. So yeah, F would probably be the best one.
All right, next episode, Space Captive 303.
Or Space Prisoner 303.
Nobody cares anymore. But I'm beginning to pick up possible hints of xenophobia in the show by this point, because hearing Kiriyama hope nothing happens with an alien visitor points to this, as well as not having any friendly aliens at this point. And a 3-year-old must have dubbed that lady at the gas station too. You remember how she sounded?
Oh god, yeah, sounded like a little kid. Sounded like a little kid. Now I remember. I was just like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah. Well, and two, when the alien comes in and holds this little boy's family hostage, he climbs out the window using a rope. Mm-hmm. By the way, he just so happens to have like 20 feet of rope at his disposal in his room. But not only that, why didn't he just call the police instead? And instead, he decides to risk even his own life and to potentially put his family in more jeopardy because the alien notices that, he's climbing out of his window.
And there's the thing, too, is that even though the alien noticed, he didn't even freaking care and just closed the windows like, oh, I'll just keep the family hostage while the kid just escapes.
I gave this one an F too. I mean, it's beginning to be littered with stupid. I could go with stupid if there were entertaining aspects to it, but like I said, this show has decided that's not what it wants to do.
I'll at least just give this one a D- for at least maybe just a bit of effort as far as the alien. So
to me, the alien isn't even worth upping it to a D-. Next episode, The Cursed Town.
Or The Marked Town.
And I tell you, the beginning of this episode was really dark. I was beginning to wonder, I'm like, is this even appropriate for kids?
And the one thing that I want to point this out, the guy who directed this one, I know he directs at least a few other episodes, which is in the second half, I think towards the end there. And I think, well, he also does episode 12. I think this might be maybe he did some similar setups for the other Ultraman episodes, and I think out of the other 25 episodes that we've seen of so far in the first half here, I think just kind of the whole vibe or the cinematic sort and kind of the unique cinematography that they use for this episode, I've really liked this one.
I find it interesting too that this episode provides you with other reasons not to smoke. The cigarette episode, boy, that's a sign of the times when you have a more or less a kid's show talking about cigarettes being tainted. Yeah. And by the way, okay, so Dan does some investigating and the Metron alien captures him. Why didn't the Metron alien kill Dan before he took off? It would have been a perfect moment to do so because he had Dan right there in front of him in non-Ultraseven fashion. He could have done it. Instead, he bugs out.
I don't know. It's an episode by episode thing, so just kind of keep everything contained in one thing. So, and two is you always got to have the hero be the victor in everything, particularly in this era. And yeah.
Well, and I mean, look, I can kind of get it, but like this Metron alien here, it makes him look stupid. And this alien was supposedly really smart because he tainted all these cigarettes, right? And was making people go nuts. Like, that's incredible. It's an incredible thing. You have these people walking around with guns shooting people. I mean, the first part of this episode actually was terrifying. Like, these people are going nuts, and they didn't realize they were going nuts. And here he is. He's got Ultraseven right in front of him, and he knows that. He could have killed him and be done with it, but he doesn't do that.
Yeah, and then the other thing, too, is that what you were talking about earlier, like, it's trying to identify its audience. Is it like an adult theme or kids theme? And this one right here is kind of like borderline adult theme, or basically is an adult themed episode. But then I think after that just goes right back to kids.
Again, it's trying. We see this even in movies where when you're trying to have it both ways, okay, you fail. Like 99 times out of 100, you fail. There are very rare cases where you're able to straddle both camps and actually be at the bare minimum sufficient. That doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it just... Again, but anyways, as we this is what I wrote at the time, because this was the last episode of Disc 1, at least for me it was. As we wrap up Disc 1 on the Shout Factory collection, I cannot say I have had a fun time. I can appreciate better practical effects, but that's about all the good I can say. Well, I do enjoy most of the alien designs as well. I think it's really strange that, again, my memory was that I really enjoyed this series. Not as much as Ultraman, but enough to strongly recommend it. At this point, I am not entertained and I'm losing faith in the show. Again, it's still early enough, but the show 8 episodes in fails to follow a formula that made Ultraman so much fun. Instead, nearly everything feels half-assed. Some of that may be short production times, but still, if that's a problem, don't tackle particular stories and topics. And I gave this one a D-.
I would at least give this one at least a better grade, simply because I really liked the cinematography to this particular episode, because I think it's probably the best one that I've seen in the first 25 episodes. So I would at least give it a C.
Okay. Episode 9, The Android Detective.
Or Operation Android Zero.
You see how I didn't even bother to start talking about it because I knew you were going to insert the alternative title there. You have the gal, and I forget the actress's name, but she was under the key lock spell in Destroy All Monsters. She also was the princess or queen in Space Amoeba also. She's in here. She plays the android. And starting off this episode, I kind of had a little laugh because Furuhashi was a dumb shit to believe that woman. Sure, she's a pretty face, but she's a total stranger that he's trying to mac on, and his dick got the best of him. He should have been more professional because he's Ultra Guard, but
yep,
a man's pee-pee got in the way. I mean, it's true.
Yeah, and I don't know how many volts that she had when she shook his hand when he was pretending to be Dan Moriboshi. If it was like a lethal amount, especially with Ultraseven, or like the Ultra coming from a land of light, where all the Ultras originate from, you think it'd be much higher voltage to kill off the Ultra, so it should have been like an
think.
automatic like lethality. I'm not sure if if that was the right word, to a regular human, so he should have been dead on the spot.
Well, you would think that the android would be programmed to take Moroboshi out. And like you said, it should have easily killed Furuhashi. It should have, it would be strong enough to kill Dan as well, because he's Ultra 7.
Mm-hmm.
But, whatever, that people don't care anymore. I mean the writers of the series.
And what do you think of the whole the quote unquote toy maker, and then it turns out to be like all of like these toy guns and stuff actually being guns and all that?
It was creepy.
And tanks and planes.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was creepy because when he was with the kids and all that, like earlier in the episode, it just was creepy. And I don't think you could write a story, similar to this today, because of all the gun violence we've been seeing in schools over the last 10, 15 plus years. It was kind of disturbing, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it was disturbing, but trying to, take that out of the equation and just take it as a story element, it was interesting, should have been fleshed out more, obviously wasn't. But at the same time, again, this episode failed. One of the major problems with the series up to this point that was verified for me here in this particular episode was that episodes spend way too much time on setup. The ending to this episode is another bore and another disappointment. What made the original Ultraman so great was that it brought the villains in early, often, and made them active as well as the heroes. And that can't be said here. I gave this episode an F.
I know I do like kind of the whole little thing that kind of went on with it, but yeah, nevertheless, it's another Ultra 7 episode. I'd at least give this one a D.
And here's the thing. I don't want people to think that I hate all the premises to these episodes. I want to make myself clear that that's not what I'm saying. I do think, though, some of these episodes are very hypocritical, and we will get to a couple of these episodes here in a bit. What I'm saying is that the writing, more times than not, and I keep saying that phrase because it doesn't hold true exactly throughout the entire first half, is really not good. And like I've said many times so far in the hour and a half we've been doing this, there were better, more efficient and effective ways to tell these stories. And for whatever reason, that's not the way that they went.
Mm-hmm.
This premise, I think, was interesting. And like I said, if this were fleshed out more, I think you could have really had something unique and fun and interesting here. But they just didn't decide to go. Like I was saying, I was kind of creeped out by the toy maker and all that, because the actor, I thought, did a good job of being creepy. His interaction with some of the kids and kind of how he was being suspicious was kind of creepy. But for a 25-minute episode and how the progressed. Kinjo, whatever the writer's name is, just decided, no, we're not going to explore some of these elements. Mm. And one of the things that I wouldn't have minded would have been if some of these were even multi-part stories. We get at least one multi-part story in the first 25 episodes here. Would it have hurt to have maybe even a few more if necessary? No. But again, and I can't tell you why, other than the fact that that's just not what they did most of the time. But even then, like, as I went on my rant earlier with Underground Go Go Go, which we will get eventually here, the choices, and I'm tongue-tied just because I can't really explain it because it just baffles the hell out of me, is that it would have been so easy in so many of these episodes to get to your point sooner because you have 25 minutes to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
And then also to raise the stakes at the same time while incorporating your villains / aliens and entertainment as well. And even extend the fights a little bit longer as well. I'm not saying that the ending battles have to be long all the time, although a lot of them are ridiculously short here. But make them longer.
Mm-hmm.
Easy fixes.
Mm-hmm.
Just about anybody could do it. And these guys got paid, and these guys were considered pros. And what we get here is less than amateur. It's...
Well, and I think probably the one thing too is just, I don't know how much time that they had in production for this.
That's still not much of an excuse,
TV
though.
show, even with there being about 50 episodes, and 2 could be the budget.
Here's the thing. I don't think budget was a problem because you see it more in the miniatures here than you did with Ultraman. I will go to my grave saying Ultraseven had better effects work all around compared to Ultraman. And I love Ultraman as a series more than I do Ultraseven. And I think Ultraseven did that stuff better. I think if timing was a problem, and it could have, then what you do, as other TV series have done, you hire more writers.
And then again, it could also relate to Tetsuo Kinjo, even though he did a handful of writing each of the episodes, and then you got some other people coming in too, and I think they didn't really collaborate too, and that could also be a problem.
Well, yeah, and I almost wonder, because when was this series, like 68 or something?
67, 68.
So Subaraya was still around, okay? And I don't know to what degree he was involved in, because definitely by this point in his career, he was already, at least with the Godzilla movies, handing off more of his work to his underlings.
Yeah, probably at least a few more years, because he passed away at least a couple years after when this show ended.
Yeah, and I don't know if he was off doing something else or what, but I don't know. And the more I think about it, the more frustrating it gets, because, you know, if Subaraya was involved enough to be credited for Ultraman, being involved with a lot of the story setups there, but not enough to be set up here, it tells me Subaraya either just decided to take more of a hands-off approach and just let other people do it, or maybe he was off doing something else.
I'm assuming so, because I know with the original Ultraman that he had at least had a hand in developing the story for that one, and as well as being creating that show. The only credit that he has for Ultraseven is created by, and then E.G. Subaraya.
Yeah,
and
like
that's about it.
Either he just decided, look, someday I'm not going to be around, so you guys have to learn to figure it out yourselves. He either did that, or he was off busy doing something else. And I don't think he was ill yet, because I think it was only within his final year that he started getting ill, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, and I think maybe the only thing that I'm seeing here right now is that his eldest son, Hajime Subaraya, he directed at least a handful of episodes, including the first episode, and unfortunately, episode 17, which I know you're a huge fan of, on that one, and so yeah.
I'm trying to find August Rigoni's biography here of Tsuburaya. Here it is.
I think I
want to see if I can quickly find something.
I know you. I think you might have given me a copy of that, maybe. Or I'm thinking of a different book. No, I'm thinking of a different book. Never mind.
I'm wondering, is there an index here to make it go a lot easier? Because I seriously want to know what his involvement may have been. There's Ultraman, and Ultraseven. That probably is a movie. I think so. Giant Monster War breaks out. Yeah, that had to be a movie. Here's Ultraseven. Let's see, 150 to 157. Because I am so damn curious. Okay, the Ultra Aftermath. Ultraman's ratings are still skyrocketing. TBS's Super Right Productions had come to an impasse. While TBS wanted a fourth season for Ultraman, raising the total episodes to 52, it was not to be. Although the sponsors and the network argued for continuing to produce Ultraman, Super Right Productions claimed that the arranging and preparing another 13 episodes was beyond their abilities. They made up their minds to instead produce a new series. Ultraman concluded at the end of its third Cures after 39 episodes on April 9th in the final episode. Okay, so we already know what happens there.
But yeah, according to this, I think this was the last sort of Ultra series that was done under Tsuburaya's belt before he passed away, because Return of Ultraman doesn't start till 1971, a year after his death.
Yeah, I may have to come back to this, because there's a fair amount of stuff here that, yeah, I'm going to have to come back to this. I am curious because it sounds like, yeah, maybe there was something going on with the Tokyo Broadcasting station and Tsuburaya Studios. Like I said, I wonder if he took more of a hands-off approach to this one.
It sort of seemed like it, because with this being the last Ultra TV show under his belt before his passing, because the next one didn't start until a year after.
Yeah, I'll have to try to make a note to update everyone on that for when we cover the next 14 episodes at the end of next month, because there's a lot there, and I don't want to have a bunch of dead air here, but. Moving on, the next episode, The Suspicious Neighbor. Not going to lie, I fell asleep halfway through this one and don't remember much other than being bored. There's more setup and longer than necessary shots to get things moving.
Yeah, this one, if I remember correctly, this one is where the alien that was living next door to this kid, and I think later on he teleports Dan Moriboshi into the fourth dimension, I believe, and then he was sort of trapped around, and I can remember Anne, the other gal, maybe her friend, and I'm guessing this one gal's son. They always so annoyingly saying his name a lot for like, I'd say 2 minutes straight, but it just felt like it was forever. I was like, can you guys just stop? And if I was on the other side in the dimension, hearing my name profusely nonstop, I would just be like, what? I'm here, damn it.
This is something I wrote when I was watching this episode. As I watched this episode, I was reminded that in all actuality, my enjoyment of Ultraseven was not as spectacular as I had believed starting out. Oh gosh, God. It turns out my attention was not captured much of the time, and I was off doing other things while many of these episodes played in the background. I hate to say it, but I don't think this series is going to turn out well. That's what I wrote. But I will say, for this particular episode, I enjoyed the Ikarian design, and I thought the sequence where the foliage is burnt was done pretty nicely, too.
Yeah, for this one, I'd at least give this episode a D minus.
I thought, I have to say though too, this is the one you and I had talked about. Pretty stupid that he just energy pushes the Ikarian into a valley where the Ikarian died.
That one, yes.
What
yes, yeah.
What happened there? He just, and we only see it once.
And he just like, the Ikarian alien just kind of scoots along the ground there and then flies up and then over a mountain, and then you just see his body just lying on the ground. That was it.
That's it, yeah. So here are my final thoughts on this episode. Having a Daikaiju-sized battle helped this episode along with some great miniature work of the countryside. The spaceship aspects were fairly fun, but nothing spectacular either. A step up from recent episodes, but the message at the end of being wary of your neighbor is not a good message, and therefore kills any goodwill I had for this episode before that moment. What an awful message in F. Because, yeah, you remember at the end of this episode, they're saying, be wary of your neighbors.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're supposed to try to get along with your neighbors because, you want to be a tight-knit community and all that. It's like, no, that's just awful. That's awful. Yeah. It's like, look, that person is different from you. You should hate them. Like, just
you don't want to be a snitch, do you?
You just don't want to be an ass. All right, next episode, Fly to Devil's Mountain.
Go ahead.
You got nothing else here?
I can't honestly remember this episode. I think it's one of the episodes where it was kind of background noise to me.
This was the one with the robot dragon that had Ibara's screech.
Okay, yeah.
The students that get disappeared at the beginning, I thought to call what happened to the young people as accidents is totally incorrect.
Yeah, now I remember. This is how much I think kind of beyond the point where I just started making some of these episodes as background noise to me. But yeah now I at least remember this robotic dragon because I at least remembered that this one was this robotic dragon was revived for the most recent Ultra series TV show Ultraman Trigger, where it was more a ship for the Guts Select, where it kind of transforms into that robotic dragon and everything. But
it's similar to what happens here.
Yeah, but it transforms into a flying saucer in a way, instead of just like a different kind of space flying ship in Ultraman Trigger.
Yeah. Well, and a problem with this episode is we're never told how Dan and the other people are brought back.
That too, and I like how was it Ultraseven is trying to was struggling, quote unquote, but then like in the end he just like, I don't know what I don't know if he just wanted to have some kind of fake struggle with this robotic dragon or something, and he just ripped the dragon apart with ease.
Did you notice that this robot dragon had flesh?
I sort of had a feeling the way it looked, but then I was like, I don't know if that was like the foam or if it was supposedly designed to be metal, but it didn't turn out to be quite right to be metal.
Yeah. So here's my very short one-sentence deal about this episode. A better battle. The best the show has had so far, but that is like a backhanded compliment. Grade C-.
This would probably be the one that I would have to disagree with you about being a battle. It really wasn't a battle.
Yeah.
I give this
put it in quotation marks.
I'd give this one a D+.
Okay. Because I've been drinking so much, I have to go to the bathroom. So if you want to fill like dead air time for like a couple minutes while I use the restroom.
Yeah, I really don't know what
maybe
else.
Maybe you can just tell people, I don't know what to expect from us, like with commentary. I don't know. Think of something. I'll be back here.
Yeah, maybe as far as G-Fest or something. I can maybe talk a little bit about G-Fest coming up. I know we've already, as far as the early registration for G-Fest, that the early registration for that, where you can get cheaper ticket prices and everything for that, is going to be ending usually around February 28th, which I know has been like that every year. So hopefully, third time's the charm for G-Fest to be coming around. And I know that they've already have announced a couple guests coming this time. And if I can bring it up, they've got Hiroyuki Kawase, who played as the little kid from both Godzilla vs. Hedorah and as well as Godzilla vs. Megalon, kind of the main kid. And then Tomoko Ai, she's going to be returning to G-Fest. And I can't remember the last time I saw her, and I think she was around when the other actor who was from Megalon and as well as Terra Mechagodzilla, when they were kind of brought back together for like the first time in many years. So Tomoko Ai, she's coming back for this one. And then one of the other things too is one of the notes that the guests kind of requested too was that with everyone entering the autograph room, if you're going to be purchasing the ticket, and I think they're going to be having you purchase tickets for the autograph room, which I think they've done that for the last several years. So if you're going to be going into the autograph room, that they require you to wear a mask and then show proof of vaccination and everything per like the Illinois state and all that. But we haven't really bothered going to the autograph room for, gosh, I think since the second
really
year.
Since they started charging, really.
Yeah. And then it seems like another news item here about was it public health orders for G-Fest 27. G-Fest will be legally required to enforce any public health orders that are in place during the time of the convention. Such orders change from time to time. Updates can be found on Chicago's official COVID website. But yeah, that's that. So I mean, with it more or less being more of a endemic now, so I mean,
not quite the stealth Omicron they're finding out actually is more deadly than Omicron. So
what?
But
agree to disagree.
Yeah, and you're wrong. The man from V3 is the next episode. The way this episode opens is a lot of fun.
Or should I say, this episode's called "From Another Planet" with love.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Done. I thought having Kurata and Kiriyama fire on the ship is stupid because they could kill their own men inside the ship.
Yeah. I'm guessing this was another. I think this is another episode that I had for background noise, so I really don't know much.
Yeah, well, and I might as well just bring in. I thought the V3 alien was awesome. It was my favorite design up to that point in the series. But I didn't think it was clear whether or not the V3 alien had been killed.
Oh, V3.
How did the men get rescued too?
Sorry, my bad. I was looking at episode 12 for the title. Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how the men get rescued. It's not clear whether or not the alien was killed. I give this one a C. I thought it was halfway decent.
Yeah, since it was kind of background noise to me. Yeah. I'll just give it a C minus.
So I'm letting everybody know these next 2 episodes that we're about to discuss, it's a multi-parter. And I will say, if you're tired of me being down on the series, here's kind of a couple of episodes where I'm actually going to give some good grades, and I'm pretty excited to talk about. So Westward Ultra Garrison Part 1. But first, some negative stuff. I thought I'm starting to think that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Ultraseven theme, I think it's a little catchy, but Ultraseven's barely in these, and the Ultra Guard is more involved. The series should have been renamed to Ultra Guard, and that would have been more accurate of a title. But the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, catchy, but pretty annoying.
Yeah. So some of the music is a bit unique in this one, but yeah, some of them are a little bit goofy.
I think the Ultra Guard agent was right about the Japanese Ultra Guard, that they are idiots. I mean, this organization jumps to so many conclusions that they would have been put out of commission in the real world. They can't even do proper detective work. And not to mention, this agent is a better fighter than they are. The Ultra Guard needs to be disbanded because it's such a piss poorly run organization.
Yeah, what else is new?
Yeah. Although the episode redeems itself with great underwater miniatures and a terrific final confrontation. I remember this one definitely being one of my favorites of the series. It does make up for some of the buffoonery from the Ultra Guard earlier. The best episode of the series up to this point, I gave it an A minus.
Yeah, with this one with King Joe, and I know this one's kind of a reoccurring monster or robot killer thing. And I know it was in, I think in Ultraman Geed or Geed, however you pronounce it, and everything. And it's one of the good ones. And I know I've got a figure of this particular monster or robot, along with Elokin and some of the other noticeable Ultraman kaiju. But yeah, this one is a pretty good one. I would at least give this one a B+.
Yeah. So here we go to part 2 of Westward Ultra Garrison. Great effects work. I thought the final battle was a lot of fun. Here's the thing I was talking about earlier, where you have one episode that has an interesting theme, and then in the next episode it gets they get hypocritical, meaning that the episode that comes after this one, they're going to basically go against their own advice that is mentioned in this one, where the theme of being careful about shooting rockets into space is stupid. But despite that, this continues the fun and good storytelling of the previous episode. I actually had fun with these 2 episodes, and I'm hoping things turn around from this point. Sadly, Kent, you're going to be disappointed. I gave this episode an A.
I'll at least give this one a B+, too. So it just kind of continues on from the first part.
And so the next episode, Shining Eyes in the Darkness, here's where we get the Ultra Guard being hypocritical. Didn't Dorothy in the last episode just say we had to be more careful about sending rockets into space? Sheesh, these people are stupid. Not to mention we get a recycled plot point immediately after it was used in a previous episode.
Well, as I said, with things like this, it's episode by episode, so everything's kind of contained within an episode, except for those that have two-parters. So
you still can't help but to see that stuff. It just still you can't help it.
As far as this episode, it sort of reminds me a little bit of Ultra Q in a way, and how things kind of progress
a bit
in a way. More or less a low budget version of Ultra Q.
Well, the thing is that the Ultra Q's worst episode is better than this. So,
yeah.
My final point about this episode is there isn't much otherwise to say about this episode. It sadly returns to the old boring formula of tedious, ponderous setups, where the viewer is left bored most of the time. Like many previous episodes, once the final battle commences, the episode is basically over. I gave it a D-.
For me, I'd at least give this one a C.
I'm thinking as we go along here, we'll just take turns saying our piece. So I'll say my piece about the episode, and then you'll say your piece, because you were talking about you need to wrap up here. What do you think about that? I think we'll go faster.
Yeah, I think that's fine, because right now we're at your favorite episode.
Underground, go, go, go. I already talked about Jiro there. We're 16 episodes in, and we're just getting the part of the story where we see how Ultraseven kind of came to Earth, so to speak. It's very careless and lazy. Another boring episode where it becomes a rescue mission in a mine. Baffles me they had a good template with Ultraman. They refused to try to duplicate it here. The aliens at the end come out of nowhere, and they do nothing for the story other than to just be
there.
Yeah. So, final comment on this episode: one of the most boring and poorly constructed episodes of the series. I had a difficult time paying enough attention to it. I gave it an F.
Yeah, and with this one, it probably should have been maybe the second episode, just to kind of get the behind backstory of how Ultraseven came here and everything. But yeah, it's just kind of towards the middle of it. It's sort of too late for me to kind of go back on.
It's a mishmash episode. It doesn't know what it wants to be.
And I think it was one of the other episodes that we mentioned about being just pure filler. I would at least say just kind of the backstory part should have been added much earlier into the series. I would at least say episode 2, maybe episode 1. But yeah, the whole robot city underground thing. Yeah, it to me that just felt like it was just put in there for no apparent reason. Even the narrator just felt like it's like what the hell is
and they're robots.
Yeah. It's like, boy, what? There was a city underground? I didn't even know this either. It's like they just put it in at the last second without me noticing. But yeah, F.
Yeah. All right. Escape from Area X. You can clearly see the actors.
Escape Dimension X.
Okay. You can clearly see the actors are jumping only about 3 feet out of the plane. How did Soga write so professionally on his parachute? Not to mention what he wrote. This forest is no ordinary forest. It's so vague and preposterous that it's obvious the writers of the episode wrote that to try and hide the mystery in longer. Any other person would name a problem or two with the forest. The tick creature is really neat and puppeteered well. So Dan can now turn into Ultraseven by a simple wave of his arms. The series isn't even following the rules it's set up for itself up to this point. I like the alien kaiju designs, and The concluding battle is better than most up to this point, but what was the kaiju's purpose? Was it an alien? Did it die by simply being tossed into the lake? If so, that's annoying as hell. An episode that is a bit better than most so far, but still too much time is spent on setup and moments that drag on longer than needed. Some of that time would have been better spent finding the kaiju's motives. It's an episode that still lacks a lot, but it's not overly terrible. D+.
Yeah, with this one, what was the point of doing a Halo jump to begin with, even though they've mostly driven to places in their car? Although one thing I have to say, the car is pretty cool in respect to it. It'd be pretty cool to have one. Or
it
just
flies later, which is dumb.
Yeah, that's probably the one downside to it. Or just fly with one of the two Ultra Hawk planes just to go there instead of just being transported there by some strange or different company and just Halo jump from a plane. So, but yeah, the alien kaijus are pretty good, although pretty goofy at the same time with the face and eyes and stuff. But yeah, other than that, I'd at least give this one a D+.
All right, so Project Blue. Nothing?
This is the one where the this famous scientist comes from, was it Antarctica or the Arctic, is controlled by the alien, like an alien from another kind of like dimension, like a different kind of dimension or something that controls time and everything. It's an interesting concept in a way, but then at the same time, trying to frame Dan Oboshi and everything? It's like, I mean, look, he just plugged in this little thing that was created by the scientists and everything. You should be suspicious of the scientist more than Dan Moriboshi.
You're getting somewhere critical when the person says, look.
But yeah, that something with that whole kind of story for that episode is a bit screwy and everything. So with this, I'd at least give it a C-.
I found it funny that Bud was throwing rocks at Ultraseven. If they the aliens that is, already had a device that can blow up Earth from the inside, then why bother needing the Project Blue blueprints? That makes no sense whatsoever. While I still wouldn't have necessarily approached the story this way, I really liked this episode. Bud is a sinister villain, and the whole episode has a horror vibe to it that's creepy. As a result, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I gave it a B+. Next episode, Smash Epicenter X.
Or Destroy Earthquake Epicenter X. I almost said something else.
Epicenter Sex. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, because I think I was combining the word Epic Center and X.
Oh, this series is just making us go. All right. The Shapley alien looks like a Kamen Rider ripoff. The Gladios Kaiju was really neat. It bleeding those stones was quite interesting. Not a bad episode, but still a lot of elongated setup that could have been cut to the chase. It's decent enough. I gave it a C+.
Yeah, yeah, with this one, the alien was pretty good, the humanoid alien, but the baggy monster, I think.
Gladius.
I mean, yeah, well, just the way how it was executed, it was pretty baggy.
Well, yeah.
I think they should have made it not as baggy and not quite as Muppety in a way, because it looked just the way like the facial features and stuff, it was a bit kind of a Muppet. and it was annoying how it roared all the time.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I would at least say the human aspect of this one was at least pretty good. Probably the better one in this episode here. So with this one, I would at least give it a C.
Pursue the Undersea Base is the next episode.
That's the same title, too. So.
Okay. Okay. I'm just waiting. Okay. Iron Rocks is a really neat design. I dig it an awful lot. Again, the setup is longer than it needs to be, but it's not as bad as what we're accustomed to seeing from the show at this point. Overall, we may be starting to see the show hit its stride, which is not true, Kent, in a manner that isn't dull and preposterous. That's not true, Kent. As of this writing, the final thought on this particular episode, I can only hope that it's going to get better. I gave it a C+.
Yeah, I don't really know a whole lot about this one. I think this was also another background filler.
Oh, dude, you missed it because it was a battleship, like a multi-tiered battleship that took other battleships and constructed itself.
Okay, yeah, now it's coming back to me now. Yeah, because of the Yamato, the battleship thing. So now I do remember the ending part for this one here, where like Ultraseven was struggling in this one, and then he just unwrapped himself from the chain and then just used the laser from his forehead, which he could have done that to begin with. So I give this one a D.
Moving on. The Human Ranch.
Or the Human Farm.
They killed a dog.
Supposedly, but you don't see it, though.
I'm assuming they did because we never see the dog again. I have always hated floating cars. It looks awkward and is just dumb. The attempt at drama over whether the women will survive in the next 15 hours was more funny than sorrowful. If there was more character development over the episodes, then sure, it probably could have worked. It doesn't help either that they linger on Kiriyama, the Doctor, and Dan longer than was necessary. The massive beam is one of the dumbest things I've seen in this show so far. For starters, it didn't look like the two characters were even strapped into their seats. Second, such intense spinning would make you beyond sick and force you to lose control of the ship. Third, it's in general a terrible means of being able to generate a beam on a flying vessel. Words cannot describe how idiotic this whole idea is. The narrator asking when alien invaders will be attacking Earth again is dumb and unnecessary for obvious reasons. Just when the series was beginning to get my hopes up, it dashes them with another ponderous and dull entry. While some of the ideas are interesting, they are never further explored. Having a multi-part story would have done justice to an idea like this, but alas, the writers weren't interested. There is no fun battle to be had either. There is a lot of dumb elements and good story ideas not further explored that I have no choice but to give this one a grade it deserves, which is an F. So on Sesame Street, the word of the day is dumb.
For me, I think this was just another filler episode that just really wasn't needed to be there. So, yeah, F.
Okay. The next episode, Find Tomorrow.
Or Search for Tomorrow.
Help us all. I found it funny Kiriyama got grilled for doing searches without substantial evidence. Apparently the Ultra Guard are hypocrites or poorly run, considering we've seen so many episodes where they've jumped to conclusions on situations and suspects. Why would aliens be interested in a fortune teller? Even by the late 60s, they were considered quacks. Even if they felt threatened by him, why not just kill him anyways? That is the aliens. Why didn't they just go ahead and kill the fortune teller? A fun monster design, although a brief fight. An episode whose premise makes no sense with a slow build-up that leads to really nothing. It's incredible how much time the show tends to waste by unnecessarily elongating details. Not fun. F.
Yeah, I think this is also another filler one because for one reason, why do you need to like torture like a fortune teller, even though there's millions out there
He does nothing.
And also, for one thing, you can just, like what Ken said earlier in his thing there, you can just call him a quack and just kind of disregard your plans and, and just kind of go as normal with your plan and everything. And the other thing, too, he could have just, ended ended the guy's thing. So, F.
Here's another fun episode of mine, the laughing Furuhashi and his mother, called Return to the North.
Another favorite episode of yours.
That's what I just said, yeah. So I wrote, what a crazy ass episode. Furuhashi must hate his mother. The battle with Wyndham is downright ridiculous. The laughing between Furuhashi and his mother proves how the show continues to waste a lot of time on nothing. It's dumber than a bag of hammers. We already talked about the timer. Furuhashi must be high when he's talking to his mother, or a specter of his mother at the end. A perfect example of what this show has done wrong much of the time, except this episode takes it to a whole other level. F. I'm starting to see even my writing is just like, oh God, let's just get it over with.
Yeah, it's Return to the North. It's another filler episode, and just having was it Furuhashi just talking to himself and just thinking like his mother's actually talking to him at the end there, and then the other thing to that self-destruct whole thing that I mentioned about earlier in the episode. I don't need to go back on that again. Filler, F. F stands for filler.
F is for filler. That's not good enough for me.
Oh, that's pish posh, pish posh, pish posh.
Showdown at 140 degrees below zero. Smart idea to tell your comrade to walk home in 140 degrees below zero weather without any real protection. Damn, this organization is willing to kill its own. Remember when they told him to walk home?
Yeah, and just laughing at his ass, being in butt cold weather while they're enjoying nice warm cup of coffee, even though
he doesn't even have a jacket.
only to have instant karma come right back at them. So
I remember this episode because of those crazy ass aliens from the planet Paul. They talk about Ultraseven here needing solar energy, but that was never established until now in the show. Not to mention, Seven had never been in a situation where his energy was about to run out like Ultraman's occasionally did. This is another problem with the show in that Ultraseven was hardly ever in real danger of being defeated. Why evacuate the base? Where the hell would you go? Going outside would be even colder than staying underground. While the kaiju battle here is quite entertaining, if not the best in the show up to this point, the episode has a lot of goofiness, craziness in the worst way, and stupidity. We went from having 3 good episodes to several terrible episodes. This has been a very frustrating experience, to say the least. I'm giving the episode a slightly better grade only because of the fun kaiju battle. I gave it a D-.
I probably give it a D- too, simply because Dan Moriboshi's crew just laughing at him while enjoying warm coffee in the bunker and everything, only just to have that get right back at him with karma and everything. So it's like Dan's done so much for you guys, only for you just to laugh at him while he's freezing to death in 140 degree below zero temp.
They probably would have froze instantly, basically.
Yeah.
Serious question for you, Jason. It's negative 32 degrees out. You're stuck. You give me a call, and I tell you, nah, just walk home. And all you have on is like a T-shirt. Are you doing that?
No.
My point.
All right. So with this, I also give it a D-.
All right. Final episode we're covering here, Super Weapon R1. I like the kaiju. The battle is interesting, but Seven just toughing himself up is just meh. Not to mention the close-up edits are headache-inducing. This is the one where Ultra 7 just flexes and somehow saves the day. It's pretty dumb. A decent episode with a cool kaiju with some good action, not too shabby. I gave it a C+.
Oh, I haven't even gotten that far anyways.
Okay, well, that's your homework. You're going to start us off with your view on that.
Because that's episode 26. I only stopped at 25, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, I did 20. Well,
you said you did 27, so.
Wait a minute. I may have accidentally done 28 here because I think. Hold on just a moment here. Did I actually do. Oh, shit. Where'd it go? Oh, no, don't tell me. Oh, I wonder if it went into this folder. Here it is. Yep. Did I do... Yeah, I think I did 28 episodes. Yeah, I did 28. Boy, I can count. But
yep,
anyways...
you sure can.
I got some final thoughts on the first part of Ultra 7, so bear with me for like... couple minutes here. I got like a page and a half here.
Well, for me, since you got a page and a half, the first 25 episodes or the first half of Ultra 7, overall, it's not too promising. And I can at least see why I haven't watched this show in a decade. Simply because there's quite a bit of filler, more filler than there was in the original Ultraman. Yeah, so I'm kind of hoping, fingers crossed, but I can't guarantee it, of there being an uphill from here on out.
I just want to apologize, to everyone if you were hoping for something, maybe more positive in this
Same
episode.
here.
Like I said, my hope is that the next two discussions we have to conclude the remainder of this show will go better. But like Jason was saying, and like I said earlier, I am not anticipating that. So my hope is that maybe you had fun laughing with us or at us during this whole discussion, and that we were at least entertaining for you for like 2.5 hours. But, sorry, it couldn't have been maybe more fun in terms of more being upbeat about it. So here are my final thoughts on the first part of Ultra 7. My memory was that Ultra 7 was a show I enjoyed but was not thoroughly in love with. I knew it was different, but still liked much of what it had to offer. I have to admit, however, I didn't pay close attention to the show back in 2014 and 2015 when I initially watched it. My son was an infant, and the show more or less was background noise that I happened to look up and watch bits and parts. But with this current viewing of the first half of Ultra 7 and being able to actually pay attention to each episode, I found myself bored, irritated, and disappointed in this iteration of the Ultra franchise. Yes, this series, like Ultraman before it, was aimed at children. Ultraman thrived in that arena with all of the kaiju action and the types of stories it told. But Ultra 7 veers off that route in an attempt to be more mature with some of its storytelling. While I don't believe that is such a bad idea per se, it is not executed well. In fact, much of the show is a bit of a mess considering it does not know what it wants to be much of the time. Does it want to be more adult? Does it want to continue to aim for a younger audience? Instead, it tries to straddle both worlds and ends up falling flat on its face more times than not. What is most infuriating is the template was set before it with Ultraman. The only real difference here, outside of higher budgets and an attempt to appeal to older audiences as well, is that this show wants to deal strictly with alien invaders. Considering there are 54 episodes, which actually 49, in this show, I wonder if the large episode order by TBS could have hurt the writing process. That's assuming Japanese TV works similarly in Japan as it does in the States, where a network orders X amount of episodes of a TV show. Still, coming up with something that works, even on the most basic level, shouldn't be difficult. Again, Ultraman showed how it could be achieved. Instead, so far, Ultra 7 is a dull mess. So much time is spent on building up story premises that have little to no nor exciting payoffs most of the time. Character development, sadly, is far worse here than in Ultraman, and the fact Dan Moriboshi is accepted into the very specialized Ultra Guard with no questions asked is downright frustrating. What's more is that Ultraseven is hardly ever in danger of being defeated. While it was annoying after a while to have Ultraman's blinker go off within seconds of a fight in each episode, it helped to raise the stakes and gave the hero a method of being defeated. Here, within the first 25 episodes anyway, Seven's blinker goes off in only one episode. Otherwise, the worst punishment that is doled out on him is that he gets his butt beat a bit before shaking it off and finishing the invader off, usually with his cranial blade. The episodes tend to portray the Ultra Guard in hypocritical light throughout the first half as well. One episode, they're talking about how they need to be careful about firing rockets into space, and by the next episode, they're firing them off, running into a problem, and finding out that they were careless in the mission of sending said rocket into flight. They come off as less than amateur sleuths and are quick to make judgments, a terrible trait to have for a supposed highly skilled organization that's in the arm of the self-defense force. They simply come off as so stupid and wildly incompetent to the point that you wonder why they are even in existence. I will say, though, that some of the episodes were fairly entertaining with fun battles. The miniature work, too, is a big step up from Ultraman. The effects work all around is top-notch. My hope is the second half of Ultraseven will fix a lot of the issues we've encountered during this first half. But as someone who's become more of a cynic in recent years and seen that there doesn't seem to be any potential change moving forward, I am not counting on it, and that's a damn shame. I was fully believing this would be a fun endeavor, and it's turned out to be a hair-pulling experience. If the second half ends up being just as bad and frustrating as the first half, Ultraseven will go down as a disappointing abomination within the tokusatsu genre. Other than the miniature work and effects work, everything about it is inferior to Ultraman. Ultraman may be silly and goofy, but it knew what it was and it rode with it. Ultraseven is so schizophrenic that it ends up simply being a mess, to put it in a nutshell. I certainly hope we get a better second half, but I am not expecting it.
And probably by the time the part 2 comes around of us discussing this, Kip may not have any hair.
I'm not joking when I say my hair is already turning pretty gray. So, but yeah, I mean, again, I just have to apologize to people where if you were coming here hoping for something that was very positive, that wasn't the case. And when Jason and I were discussing this, this TV show was bandied about by us for a while as like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do Ultraseven because we already covered Ultraman, so why not do the next chapter? And I was looking forward to it. But like I said, I realized once I started watching this series, I began to have memories where I realized I really was not actually paying attention much back in the day.
It's kind of the same for me too.
Yeah, and being able now to actually sit down and focus and watch these things, it really, as I said at the top of this podcast, it's turned out to be something that has just made me very irritated and frustrating because there was a formula before it where it could have just copied and pasted it after a while and gone with it and just made some tweaks here and there, to satisfy any sort of changes it needed to accommodate for this particular iteration of the Ultra franchise. And that just did not happen. And again, I will read more on this section in August Ragoni's book about kind of this chapter of Eiji Tsuburai's career and just kind of figure out not only Tsuburai's involvement in it, but also just in general, maybe the show itself in terms of how it was constructed and maybe even received. Obviously, it had to have been received well because Ultraman went on to have many other iterations and has become wildly popular in Japan. Mm-hmm. But again, this was not something I had planned. I expected to be going into these discussions basically just kissing the show's butt. And I realized after a while that sadly, that was not going to be the case, and I'm disappointed in that. I don't take any glee from bashing this. I don't, because again, like I said, we enjoy this stuff. We wouldn't be doing this podcast that is strictly covering this genre and other giant monsters if we didn't enjoy this stuff to begin with. And yeah, not everything's going to work. We've had discussions on here about some shows that we thought were meh, and other movies we thought were either meh or terrible,
or have really long rants on particular things.
Yeah, but the thing is that not everything's going to work. Even with Shin Godzilla, as much as I despise that movie, I gave it an A for effort for at least trying to do something different. I just thought just almost everything about it was bad. But here I can't even give an A for effort because, first and foremost, it's not a one-off like a Shin Godzilla. This is a TV series where, like most TV series, yeah, they typically struggle in the first handful of episodes to gain their footing, but then they course correct. They realize what works, what doesn't, and they course correct. This didn't do that. And the fact that it couldn't take even the Ultraman formula and even try to replicate it just to me shows laziness and just it's just bad. I'm sorry. It just so far, at least the first 25, well, technically I covered 26. The first 26 episodes, more times than not, it's bad. And even some of the episodes where I gave maybe a C plus on, I was like, yeah, there's quite a bit of bad writing in here and just some poor choices made in terms of setup and writing.
Unlike was it Iron King when we covered that many years ago?